Welcome to Community Conversations. I'm your host, Doris Ballard. This program is available on Concord TV's Channel 22 and on demand at yourconcordtv.org and on YouTube channel as well as on iTunes too, so as a free podcast. My guest today is relatively new to the League of New Hampshire Craftsmen, but almost a year with the League. She is Jane O'Neill, the Executive Director of the League of New Hampshire Craftsmen. Welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm happy to be here.
Oh, well, I'm happy to have you. So much to find out about what's going on with the League. I can't wait to get into the discussion of the education especially. And speaking of education, that was what you did a lot of in your former position.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about who you are, Jane, and where did you work before you came to the League in May of last year?
So prior to joining the staff at the League, I was the senior educator at the Courier Museum of Art. And that role really entailed so many different things, but primarily I was training the volunteer tour guides on how to give a tour. So it was not only the museum's collection, but the Frank Lloyd Wright House that they have down there as well. So it really required sort of an expertise in art history and an expertise in education. And I actually have master's degrees in both of those fields, so it was a good fit.
I'm sure. How did you happen to get into those fields? What was it that, as a youngster or before you decided what you wanted to do with your life?
That's a really good question, Doris, because I grew up in Manchester, New Hampshire, and I had a limited amount of exposure to the arts. I'd gone to the Courier as a kid and taken a couple art classes there and everything, but I wouldn't say I grew up with the arts being a huge part of my life. But when I was in college, I really loved studying history, and the second I took an art history class and had the visuals and the history come together, I saw that you can really use the arts as sort of your entry point for examining all aspects of our culture, whether it's politics or economics or sex, all sorts of interesting things. I mean, and art is really the entry point for those discussions, and it can be sort of a great equalizer. We can look at the same thing and have a really fruitful discussion about all sorts of issues. So that's why I really love the arts.
When you were in college, did that change your whole focus for what you wanted to do?
Sure did.
Originally, what did you think you wanted to do?
I thought I was going to be a lawyer.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
And then I started studying art history, and it was one of those little mini crises. It's like, what do you do with this? Can people really make a career in the arts? And here I am at the head of an organization trying to ensure that craftsmen can make a life for themselves, can make a career in the arts. So I feel like I'm living proof that you can make a career in the arts.
And that's what the League of New Hampshire Craftsmen is all about, right? It's
really
helping craftsmen to be able to make a living and to share their craft with New Hampshire and beyond.
Exactly.
Okay, so what attracted you to the position with the League?
So there were a lot of elements about it. We've talked a little bit about how the experience of giving a tour in an art museum, people are always asking questions about the biography of the artist. They're really interested in sort of the personal, the human nature of creating something that's beautiful and that can just really strike you. So I think what interested me about the League of New Hampshire Craftsmen was that it's personal. It starts off with the lives of the 750 juried craftsmen that are part of the League. And then it becomes a personal experience for anybody who goes to the Craftsman's Fair or even anybody who makes a purchase in one of the galleries. You're not just buying a piece, you're buying a piece of that person and all of the years of work that they've put into creating something. So the personal element, but then also the community element too. I've always really loved that, and I think that the arts have a very powerful way of bringing people together. And so the League itself is an amazing community of craftsmen, and then I think the people that support it and the people that shop fine craft are also an incredible community. So the personal element and the community element were really attractive to me.
Have you had any surprises since you've been with the League of things that you thought you knew all about the League, but maybe it was a little bit, didn't know that?
Yeah. Well, I'll say that whenever you're new to an organization, every single day is humbling to a certain degree, as you probably know. But any major surprises? I don't think so. I think you have to be prepared for the unexpected to a certain degree, and I think everybody at the League has been so sweet and kind to me when they do think that I need an education on a certain piece. So I think I've had the most wonderful conversations with craftsmen who come in and they express their concern about a certain issue, and it's that opportunity to really forge a relationship when you can have that one-to-one with somebody who's concerned enough and cares enough to express it.
When the League of New Hampshire Craftsmen, a lot of people probably don't understand. They think of the fair, which
Yeah.
I'm sure we will be talking a lot
Sure.
about. But I know I think of the fair, but until I became involved in the cultural part of Concord, I discovered the League when they were in the older building on North Main Street. But this new facility is really something to go visit.
Yes.
You do have exhibits, but let's talk first about the history and
Yes.
You've mentioned a little bit
Yeah.
about the mission. We'll
Yeah.
talk more about that, but the history is very interesting because it's one of the oldest organizations.
Yes,
I mean,
it's one of the oldest arts nonprofits in the state, and it's actually the first arts nonprofit that ever went to a state and successfully got funds for starting as a nonprofit.
so it was funded by the state.
Initially, not anymore.
Right. Well, let's make that clear so
Right.
people don't think, because it does have the
Yeah.
word New Hampshire in it.
Right.
So a lot of people feel that sometimes if it has New Hampshire in
Right.
it, that it's funded by
Yeah.
the state.
Right. I'm so happy to have this conversation
Yeah.
because we can dispel all the myths.
Let's do that.
So the League really started off sort of in response to the economic crisis of the Great Depression. So you have all of these people who are looking for work, who are looking for additional income, just trying to find a way to support themselves. And they had these incredible sort of homespun talents. So they might have done some weaving at home, they might have done some woodworking at home. And the League sort of came together as an umbrella organization that could help market their work and provide sales opportunities for their work. So back then it was called home industries. I love that term. People were literally selling things off of their front porches. And now it's fine craft. And we've got these gorgeous galleries located statewide, but it's the same idea. It's this idea that if you're an independent craftsman who's taking the time to really create beautiful works, you probably don't have enough of an income to run your own shop or to do your own marketing. And that's where the League comes in.
That's where
Yeah.
the League comes in. All right, if you're just tuning in, you are listening to Community Conversations, and I'm your host, Doris Ballard. And my guest today is Jane O'Neill, the Executive Director of the League of New Hampshire Craftsmen. By the way, your email, and I repeat it often during the program, is nhcrafts.org. So because we don't have any visuals right now, I encourage people to go to your website because there are a lot of beautiful pieces that are on the site. Yep. And then also maybe become a member, a supporting member, so that now supporting members, are you able to give them information on what's going on?
Absolutely.
Talk about what are the
Absolutely.
benefits of being, I know we're jumping a little
Yes,
ahead, but let's
that's
talk
fine.
about that.
So we absolutely encourage people to become supporting members, and I think there's another myth we can bust today is why somebody might want to become a supporting member. So we have two kinds of membership: juried membership, which means that you become a craftsman, and we can talk about
And
the
we will
juried
talk
process.
about that, right.
But there's also supporting membership, and supporting membership means that you're financially supporting the organization. And to me, the essence of that is you are supporting a major driver of the creative economy in New Hampshire. If you love a rich cultural landscape in your community, and we have craftsmen in virtually every community in the state, if you like to see that, if that's important to you, support the League because we are supporting those craftsmen.
Right. But I want to continue with the funding, that the
Yes,
state does
yes.
no longer fund it, right?
Right.
But your budget is
Yes.
over $1 million. A lot of
Right,
that
yeah.
goes into producing the fair, I'm sure.
Yes.
Okay, so let's get the funding out of the way. Where does the League of New Hampshire Craftsmen receive the majority of its funding?
So a great deal of our operating budget is from contributed income. So I mean, we're writing grants, we're asking for donations, and then part of it is the membership dues as well. So we function like any other nonprofit. Another myth to bust is that we're not a 501c3. We are. We're a traditional nonprofit. We're not an artist guild.
Why do people think you're not, I wonder?
I think some people think that we'd be like a membership guild for the craftsmen, which is a separate kind of nonprofit. But because we do so much education work, which we'll also talk about, that makes it, that puts us right in the realm of your regular nonprofit. Yeah.
Well, we do definitely want to talk about the Craft Center, which is in the lovely location you have on Main Street, 49 South Main Street, I may say. And but the juried members, how does one become a juried member? Does it take a long time? And who looks at their work and decides that that they should be accepted as a juried member?
So I'm so glad we got a chance to talk about this, because I think that the jury process can be intimidating to a lot of people. So let's say, Doris, you're a quilter, and maybe you've been quilting for 3 years, maybe you've been quilting for 30 years, but you're feeling really good about your work. What you can do is come to the League and say, I'd either like to have a critique and just sort of get feedback in terms of where my work is, are there areas where I can improve, or maybe you think I'm ready for jury. And the jury process would involve bringing in 3 very seasoned quilters that are already a part of the League, that are really familiar with every element of quilting. And in the kindest, gentlest way, we'd invite you in, Doris, and we'd have a conversation with you about your work, and you'd have a chance to tell the League about what you do. And then you'd step out of the room, and those quilters, who in that case would really be functioning as the jury, so they're your jurors, they'd be evaluating your work on the technical expertise, but then also on this idea of the spirit of the maker. And that's the sort of je ne sais quoi in all of this, but that's the element that makes your work special. That's the element of Doris in your work.
So it's your point of view that is clear in your work.
Exactly.
And that's unique to every artist, I would think.
Exactly.
Right? So do you, have you ever been a part of the, and it must be really exciting to be talking to a new potential juried member and seeing their passion for what they do.
It really is. And I think, like I said before, some people, it can be intimidating because their work is so much of who they are. And like I said, we try to do it in the kindest, most encouraging way possible. And so the juries that I've sat in on, it's been that amazing experience when you tell somebody that they're in, because really, it's the League's tagline is the signature of excellence. So once somebody's juried in, it's this idea of, wow, I've really arrived, and now I can put that little logo on my business card or on my website, and it really shows that I've reached this level of accomplishment in my field.
Do you have a lot of the those who wish to become a juried member need a little more work, and you see them come back and listen to some of the critiquing?
Yes, and when I say that we do this in a kind way, what's so nice is that you're sort of confronted with a jury of people that are working within your field. So often one of them might say, you know, Doris, I see you struggling with this kind of stitch. Why don't you come to my studio and we'll work on this together and I'll show you what I've been doing. So even just in the jury process, we're bringing people into the fold and making them a part of the community. And now that we have this gorgeous craft center too, we can even say we've got a few classes coming up that might help you with that element of your work.
All right, well, then once they are juried members, then what?
Oh, then they have so many benefits at their fingertips, which is so exciting. So the League is really there to help them grow as professionals, and then to also help them market their work and sell their work. So we offer professional development series where they might learn about building their own website, or how to manage their own social media, or how to use something like Photoshop. But then,
or video.
Or video. There you go. I see a partnership forming right here. But then they also have the opportunity to have their work carried in any of our 8 fine craft galleries. I mean, that's so extraordinary to think that you could produce something in your own home.
And you have
you have sales venues.
You have a distribution
exactly,
outlet. Right.
Exactly. And we know that so many people have success with websites like Etsy or Craftsy or something like that. But we also know that when it comes to something that's made by hand, people love to hold it. They love to have that touch experience before they buy. So we're providing that opportunity, which is incredible. And I think it's incredible that the small state of New Hampshire can support 8 fine craft galleries.
That's a testament to the people of our state.
Absolutely.
And how they support local artists.
Absolutely.
Right? If you're just tuning in, this is Community Conversations, and my guest today is Jane O'Neill, and she is the Executive Director of the League of New Hampshire Craftsmen, nhcrafts.org on 49 South Main Street. You're going to want to go visit them. Right now, let's talk about the Craft Center, and you're offering education, and I get a sense that with your background, that's going to even grow down the road, right?
Absolutely.
Talk about what can people expect to see. There's an exhibit going on now.
Yes.
We can talk about that, and then the Craft Center and the education. So you got it.
So there's so many elements to what's happening at headquarters. So the headquarters still feel fairly new to the organization. We just moved in to that gorgeous space, the Smile Building on 49 South Main Street. And so out front, we have a gallery and museum space. So the museum is really home to our permanent collection, which has pieces from some of the superstars from the League, some of the most successful craftsmen, not only in New Hampshire, but in the entire country. So that's there. And then we have rotating exhibitions that turn over every quarter. And the exhibition that we have up right now is sort of unusual for us because it doesn't have any of our craftsmen in it. It's a touring show from the Enamelist Society. And it has some pretty unusual works in it. It's a lot of fun.
Who would have thought?
Right. It's a little saucy. Right. So I was expecting a lot of small work, a lot of jewelry, because enamelist work, I mean, it involves heat, it involves precision, all these things. But we have these very large-scale works. We have a corset. I mentioned to you before. We have chaps on view. So really, I mean, it's people really playing with the media, and having a lot of fun with what is a centuries-old craft tradition.
So there are a lot of craft traditions that I don't know about, apparently. And that's why I like to go to the annual fair.
Yes.
And that happens at the same time every year, right, for 9 days, and it's in August.
Yep, it always starts the first Saturday
in August. And if anyone who's listening or watching this program today has never been to visit or hasn't been in a while, I look forward to it every year because what I love is to watch you have demonstrations.
Yep.
Give us an idea of some of the demonstrations.
There's so much that's happening there. It's certainly not just shopping, although there's a ton of great shopping.
Love it, yes.
So there's demonstrations, there's craftsmen showing you how they make the things that they make. There are workshops, so you can get your hands dirty if you want. We had a very popular pottery studio workshop last summer that filled up like that, so I know we're going to have to offer more of that. And we have exhibitions as well. We actually have 3 exhibitions every summer at the fair. So there's all sorts of ways to learn more about craft while you're there, in addition to the opportunity to meet and talk with all the craftsmen that are representing themselves.
One of the things we talked about, Jane, is how it can be a little bit of addictive if you buy one piece from an artist that you just love. It could be jewelry, it could be a small, pottery, it could be a paint. I love small paintings because that's probably all I can afford.
Yeah.
Or prints.
Yeah.
And then you start to see the point of view of that artist, and you have some sort of connection. When that happens, a lot of people start to support that artist.
Right.
And that crafter.
Yeah.
Do you see that often?
Oh, yes.
And how? Give us an example.
I mean,
of that.
that's the beauty of the Craftsman's Fair, that you have the opportunity to make that personal connection. And you can imagine if you start going back every year, it's not just a purchase that you're making. I mean, you're checking in with a friend, and every time you use the bowl that they made or the earrings that they made, you get to tell the story of your friend, that craftsman, and maybe the story of what inspired them to make that, or where they source their materials, or something along those lines. But you know that work intimately, and then you know that craftsman intimately.
And then I think it's a wonderful piece to hand down
Absolutely,
generations.
particularly the annual ornament program. So we always have an annual holiday ornament, and I know a lot of people that will go out of their way to buy one for everybody in their family with the intention that especially young people can grow up with their own collection that they can, when
And
they
that's a
move
gift
out.
that lasts,
Yes,
that people talk
exactly.
about, for, grandmother gave me that,
Yeah.
my mother gave me that, my aunt or whatever. I can't say enough about buying local crafts and art so
Yeah.
that you can give those as gifts.
And on a very simple, basic level, I'm a horrible gift giver. And, I'm the type of person that walks into Target and I'm like, where do you even start?
Right.
And then you go into the League stores and everything just dazzles you. I mean, I will never go anyplace else to buy a gift for someone other than the League galleries because the work is gorgeous. It's one of a kind. It's local.
One of a kind, very unique.
You're supporting your community. You're giving something to somebody else. It is the best place
It's a win-win
to shop.
all the way around.
Exactly.
All right. All right. So the League of NH Craftsmen has quite a few of those retail locations.
Yes.
And so we know we have one on Main Street still, just because you've now moved on Main Street to a brand new building, which, by the way, people have got to go visit on 49 South Main Street. That we do have a lovely retail store where you can buy things, and they're throughout the state too. So
Yes,
how many
exactly.
locations again?
So 8 locations statewide. We've got the one location also on Main Street. That's 36 Main Street in Concord. Beautiful location, great shopping venue. But our newest store is actually at the Hooksett Welcome Center on I-93 North. It's a small little shop. It's only about 300 square feet, but they say, the staff there, small but mighty. They have, nearly a million people going through that welcome center. So they get great foot traffic. And what I love is that they get to really spread the message about the League. So there are a lot of people that aren't familiar with what the League is all about, and they get a little taste of it there, and then they might be going off to ski or go to the lake, and they can learn about the fine craft galleries in Meredith or in Littleton, and we can send them off to the other shops as well.
Valentine's Day, if you're watching now, Valentine's Day is right around the corner, so that would make it really to buy a lovely piece of jewelry for the person you
I hope my
you
husband's
love.
watching.
There you go. But if people are watching it after Valentine's Day, you have an exhibit now that we talked about, the Enamelist Society exhibit, but there is another one coming up. So talk about the continuing the tradition that goes right into the classes and training a new generation of crafters.
Yes, so our current exhibition goes down on March 18th, and then in early April we'll have another show up called Continuing the Tradition, and that is work by craftsmen that have been juried into the League in the past 3 years. So it's new work. It's exciting to see the work that people who are new to the organization are producing, because sometimes it sort of relates to the past and sometimes it's really innovative and it's people who are sort of marching to their own drummers. So that ties in nicely with the mission of the Craft Center, because we've got these state-of-the-art, beautiful classrooms at League headquarters, and we offer classes throughout the week and on a quarterly basis. And so you can come into the gallery, maybe get inspired by something that you see there, and maybe you want to experiment, maybe you want to take a silversmithing class or something like that. Or you might see the work of a craftsman in particular who you want to connect with, and maybe they're teaching a class. So the Craft Center is another great way to make that personal connection with our craftsmen.
What an exciting arena for you to be working in.
It's a lot of facets to it.
I know. Now, one thing we did talk about, and I never thought about this, but you have these wonderful, talented crafters. We don't want to lose that talent.
So the education piece is so important. When we're thinking about the craftsmen, I mean, many of them are using these handmade traditions that go back centuries. And of course now there's technology where you can, 3D print something in the space of a few minutes and sell that just as easily. But we want to also preserve these handmade traditions where you really need the skill and the talent and the expertise to create something that's kind of precious and awe-inspiring. So to that end, it's part of our mission, And it's really my mission to make sure that the League is around for at least another 84 years. So we want to expose younger generations to not only the finished product, but the process of how to make it, so that we can continue to see generations of people who are jurying into the League and taking advantage of all the benefits of the membership.
So nhcrafts.org, 49 South Main Street. Go visit their exhibits and visit their website, the League of New Hampshire Craftsmen. And what are some of your goals? You've been with the League since May. I haven't put in your first full year yet, but you have any goals that you're aspiring to reach?
Yes. Absolutely, many of them.
Many, I'm sure.
But
so pace yourself.
Yes.
Pace yourself.
But what I want to do, sort of going back to what we were just saying about education, what I'd like to do is to make sure that the League can stay relevant to people throughout their life. So if you're a young artist just starting off, we want to offer services that benefit you at that point in your career, but we also want to do things that benefit you later on in your career. I think I've mentioned to you before, we have craftsmen that have worked in the Smithsonian. I mean, we have some of the best craftsmen in the country and in the world. And we want to make sure that the League that helped to get them there in many cases can still be relevant to them when they might not necessarily need to be able to sell in our fine craft gallery. So we want to be able to celebrate them, and we're hoping that at that point in their career they want to give back too. So really it's this idea of offering something throughout the life cycle, whether you're a craftsperson or whether you're just somebody who's interested in learning a little bit more about a craft, or even if you're just interested in supporting the arts. How do you get started, and what can the League do for you along the way? And maybe, years from now, Doris, when you've given the League your entire estate, I want to make sure that we're celebrating you as a supporter appropriately. Yeah.
Very well said. Your board should be proud of you as executive director. So, is Jane O'Neill, executive director of the League of New Hampshire Craftsmen. I am going to check out those classes. I'm definitely encouraging the public to go visit the beautiful exhibits that you have there and the works that you have on display. It's right next door to the Chamber of Commerce, so you can go visit the Chamber of Commerce.
Great
over
neighbors,
there after. It's
yes.
wonderful. It's in the Smile Building, and go to the galleries. You can find those on the website as well, nhcrafts.org. Any final word?
Thank you for having me.
Well,
it's been a pleasure to spend this time with you.
Thank you for being here, and I want to invite you back so when we get closer to the fair, we will definitely talk about that. It is being held. It starts the first Saturday in August.
August 6th through the 14th.
And it is held at in Sunapee?
The Mount Sunapee Resort.
Mount Sunapee Resort. Beautiful area, so make a day or a few days of it, but don't wait till then to support the League of New Hampshire Craftsmen.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for tuning in to Community Conversations. I'm your host, Doris Ballard.